All right, hello. My name is Madison, and I'm going to be talking about Persian Gulf oil. So, to start off, a little bit of background. The Persian Gulf is located in the Middle East. It is a basin that is bordered by 7 countries, a few of which are including Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. Um, Geologically, um, the basin was formed following the subduction of the Arabian Plate, and then the water was filled in approximately 15,000 years ago after the Holocene glacial retreat, which caused sea levels to rise. Today, the Persian Gulf is home to the largest oil field in the world, the Safaniya, I think that's how you say it, oil field, which is located off of Saudi Arabia. So, oil takes millions of years to form. This whole process begins with the sinking of marine organisms. And so on the left, I have a picture of phytoplankton because a lot of times a majority of these organisms are planktonic, either phytoplankton or zooplankton. So these organisms will die in the water column and then sink to the bottom in the sediments where they're buried and then become fossilized. And in the absence of oxygen, these fossils will become a substance called kerogen. So, as more material falls on top of this and applies heat or applies pressure, and then also with the application of heat, and over long time scales of over a million years, this kerogen forms oil or gas. And then again, because of the high pressure of the crust pushing down on this material, the oil will cause the oil to seep through cracks and pores in the rocks and move up closer to the surface until it reaches an impermeable layer and it can't go any higher up. So oil rigs exist so that we can drill through this impermeable layer in order to access the oil below. Okay, so oil was first discovered in the Middle East following World War One. Throughout time, many different countries have had claim to this oil, including the countries that it actively surrounds, but also other nations such as the United States and also European countries, namely Britain. And so after this discovery, it became a lot more utilized and developed. That as of 2018, 159 offshore oil rigs are located in the Persian Gulf. And the reservoir itself accounts for 25% of the world's oil, 66% of the world's crude oil, and 35% of the world's natural gas reserves. So, because oil is a rather profitable resource, there have been several disputes in history over the use of oil within the Persian Gulf. One of these was the fact that a dispute over oil was a major contributing factor to the onset of the Gulf War. So, in this case, um, Kuwait was believed to be overexploiting or overproducing oil within their borders, and which was acquired from this oil source. And Iraq believed that they were all losing out on money because of this and demanded to be paid back. So they asked for a sum of money, and Kuwait refused to pay this, and so Iraq invaded Kuwait, and this conflict lasted for 6 months. Many other countries became involved, and overall 30,000 lives were lost in the process. So, in addition to this being a disaster for humans, it was also a natural disaster. So, at the very end of this war in January of 1999, there were about 5 to 10 million barrels worth of oil released into the Gulf by Iraqi forces, and this occurred in an attempt to prevent the US from gaining access to the shorelines. So they wanted to put out the oil to attempt to keep them from invading, and overall, this became known as one of the largest oil spills in all of history. In addition to that, it was one of the first times where a natural resource, especially a pollutant, was used in kind of an attack or a way to defend themselves, and this led to the coining of the term eco-terrorism. So, after this happened, authorities attempted to clean up and pump some of the oil that was spilled into reservoirs, but a lot of it, all of the heavier portions of the oil sank to the bottom of the basin and could not be removed, which led to overall damages of $180 million. Okay, and then overall the environmental impacts that led were kind of catastrophic. So at the onset, about 30,000 birds were killed by the oil. In addition to that, fish eggs and larvae, which were very delicate, were killed and led to an overall 50% decrease in the breeding success for a few years because their young populations were killed. And because of this, the fishing industry suffered greatly, and which led to be somewhat of an economic burden. Despite the fact that these were pretty big impacts, the fish and bird populations were actually able to recover within a couple years, but not everything was able to recover quite as easily. So the buildings were basically damaged beyond repair. And then, in addition to that, because the heavy parts or fractions of the oil settled into the sediments, they are still persistent in the environment today within the sediment in the marshes and mangrove forests in Saudi Arabia. All right, that is everything for me. Here are my sources. Thank you very much.